All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Bob Martin, the RC Sub Guy with NautilusDryDocks.com. Typically, I start my videos on a Monday, which is work day, first day of the week, but it's Sunday today. And the reason I'm working on Sunday is because it's a personal project. This is my Alfa that I just had out to Sylvan Rodriguez Park, and we're going to kick off this week's video with doing some repairs. So this baby did really well yesterday at the pond. We'll cue in a little video right here of it working. Dialed into periscope depth. It's an absolute rocket. I love it. There were some issues though. Our ballast servo locked up and we lost the ability intermittently to dive or blow gas through the emergency gas system. So either the linkage or the servo itself is screwed up. Now I need to replace that, which could prove interesting because of the design of this scratch-built cylinder. It makes it exceedingly difficult to maintain, replace, or repair said servo. So that should be lots of fun. The other thing that we've got going on are these stern planes. Now these were I believe put out by a company called Ocean Research. They are not apparently accurate. I have new castings for this that David Merriman had put together. You can see we've got battle damage here. This just occurred at the pond yesterday. It looks like what happened is the lower rudder hit, that brass shaft bent and blew the little section out there. So we're going to take this opportunity, bust off all of these control surfaces and completely redo them with more accurate versions, which should be really cool. I'm going to take the opportunity to utilize stainless steel shafts, which are going to be much more rigid and less prone to doing this kind of funky damage. And then, of course, since we're going to be tearing in and replacing this, and this is all going to be messed up, we're going to put a new paint job and weathering on it as well. So by the end of the time we're working on this thing, it should be pretty darn cool. Let's get to work. I'm going to tear the cylinder out, get it functional first. By the way, also going to be upgrading from this older Radio Link receiver to a new FreeSky radio system, which is going to be my personal radio, and then this TDSR12, which has embedded telemetry and all sorts of cool stuff in it. All right, here is the guts of the Alfa. Just some cool things to point out here again. Really neat coupler in there. You can see the drive shaft rotates, and it's got these little O-rings that create like a shock absorbing interface. It's a torquey motor, and when you slam from full forward into full reverse, it just protects things a little bit. BLM, we can do away with this because we're not 2.4 anymore. The reason this was in here was so that you would have a little bit of a delay and a chance for the boat to resurface again before it blew gas ballast. Now we don't need that because we're going to have tandem dual 2.4 and 900. So in theory, we're going to have reception under the water. And then in the case of a loss of signal event at depth, you want it to blow right away, and that's all handled through the receiver itself. No more of these extraneous modules. So a lot of this is going to go away. Burp, burp, burp. And then the receiver's like over here. So it's time to strip this thing out, start putting some new stuff in. So here's the R12DS Radio Link receiver, and I just took the case apart. You can see the guts of it. It's got twin antennas right here, okay? This is an IPX connector, and they're little snap connectors. Oh, you should probably look at it. There we go. And what I'm told, is that the TDR12 has the same connector So what we're going to do, we're going to carefully pry this off, and then the entire receiver should be able to be removed. Well, the FrSky receiver does indeed have IPX connectors in there. Two 2.4 gig and then one 900 meg antennas. I already popped off the old little mini 2.4 antenna right here. And just snapped on the extended 2.4 that runs up this periscope right here. So now we're going to have 2.4 gigahertz reception all the way until the antenna gets submerged, and then we're going to automatically click over to 900. So I'm going to button this back up, get it in there, grab my radio, bind it. The other thing I did, I installed this Fast 40 voltage sensor, current sensor. What this is going to do, it's going to be able to relay to me the voltage and current consumption, so the voltage of the main battery and the current consumption of the boat. That's going to be super cool to see what sort of amps this boat pulls during the various phases of its operation. So telemetry is super cool, and it really, really gets you to know your boat. Got the cylinder all set up with the new radio. It is installed under there, the TD-SR12. Now the TD-SR12 has built-in pitch, roll, and yaw to the actual transmitter, and that gets relayed back automatically to the transmitter. And that means you can see what angle you're at, what the roll is looking like, and in theory what your heading is looking like. So that is super exciting. The 2.4 gigahertz antenna is hooked up, so I'll have 2.4 all the way until it gets fully submerged. And then I also installed a tap for LED lights. Goes right about here. We're going to have some running lights, port starboard, and then I'll put maybe a running light back here somewhere. So that's exciting. The other thing that we've got going on is this. I sheared it of all of its appendages. So now I need to put the new ones on. These were mastered by Dave Merriman. And I cast these up. So these are 48th scale control surfaces for Alfa. So I need to go ahead, clean all of these parts up. And then one thing that you'll see here when I match up the holes, that leading edge overlaps the hull split. So I'm going to have to cut that and adhere this forward part to the upper hull and then the other one to the back. But that's still going to look super cool. So now I got to do some grinding and sanding and cleaning and making looking gooder-ish. I also got to check and see if these are going to end up being parallel to each other. It kind of looks like they're canted out like this. We need to do some grinding to bring it in line. I don't know. We'll see. Well, ladies and germs, it's Monday morning, the official start to the week. As you saw yesterday, I poked around with Nautilus. It's still early here right now, about 5:30 in the morning, so I'm going to continue to take some time. I want to get the stern done here this morning, but I've got a lot of other stuff going on and very, very little time. I've only got today and tomorrow before I leave for Seattle, Victoria, BC, Edmonton, Alberta, and then back. So I'll be gone for a week. 2 more days of work, 2 more days of video. So hopefully this will drop Tuesday night. We'll see what happens. So, oh man, got lots that I want to get done, need to get done today. I got a new AC unit because this shop is just too hot. I know you guys are like, oh, just put a mini split in there. Several $1,000s. I'm just gonna run this little portable unit. My shop is pretty small here, despite what everybody says. They said it feels real big, but it's just basically an extended single car garage for the most part. Want to get the AC in there so I can work comfortably for the next 2 days. Want to get Alfa stern done so it'll be ready for paint when I get back. But the other things that I need to do, I got a bunch of orders that I need to get shipped out. That 212 that you saw me get finished up with the bayonet. Howard wants me to take a look at it and test it and stuff. We'll see if I get to it. I likely won't. That little blue, black, and kilo that I had, I need to check that blue back, get that boxed up and shipped out. I've got the shark I need to get working on. I promised that gentleman that it would be done this week, but this trip came up unexpectedly, so unfortunately that's going to need to get pushed back. We got Sequest sitting over there. You can see his blue nose sticking out. I got to finish the second chapter of the Nautilus, and of course I got the Angle Typhoon sitting in the next room. So just a few things I need to get done. All good, one thing at a time. Let's get that AC installed. Well, just like working in here right now. What's the temperature in here? It's like 80 degrees in the shop at 6 o'clock in the morning. I got my AC just pumping out the garage door because I've got it vented to the attic. I got it all set, but the hose that came with it isn't long enough. So ordered a hose extension, should be here later today. Man, you gotta love Amazon. It's like, oh, you want that gigantic hose? I'll have it to you later today. Okay, let's work on Alfa. This is where I left off last night. The upper stabilizer has been tacked in place with cyanoacrylate, and then you can see this is how I solved the issue of it overlapping the upper hull. I just did a hull split or a split in there, so once this is all painted, you'll have a hard time seeing it. The upper stabilizer is larger than the lower stabilizer, which is this right here. So this is going to go underneath. And I'm going to do the same thing that Dwayne had done because it worked so well, in that I am going to cut this flush and have the entire lower stabilizer and rudder as one piece for improved turning. I was just astounded at how well this worked at the pond on Saturday. It was absolutely awesome. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to work on the sides. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to get both of these parts cleaned up and drilled for 1/8, and then run a shaft through for orientation. I'll show you why and how and what and all that stuff here in a minute. All right, the most important thing with these stabilizer installation is making sure that they're oriented perfectly perpendicular to one another at 90 degrees. If you get them at an angle to one another, when you put that U-coupling in there, when you put that yoke in there, you're gonna get binding. So it is imperative that that main control shaft, that imaginary line from one end of the dive plane all the way to the tip of the other, is perfectly parallel. This is how we're going to do it right after I cut this crap off. Well, shoot. Here I was ready for my big demo, and I ran into a problem. So I pulled the prop off, which I need to do anyway because I'm going to be painting this thing, and I don't feel like masking it. But the way that this was built was this gigantic, like, stuffing box. It's basically got a bushing at one end, a bushing at the other end, and then it's just big hollow tube in the middle there. Normally, what you would see is a bushing in the back, and then a bulkhead up here with another bushing, and all the middle part would be open and able to be messed with. In which case, what you would do is something like this, and then this would slide all the way through to the other side and create perfectly parallel installations. So now I need to decide if I want a chance trying to bust this out or cut it out or something, or manually flibbity gibbet it, measure, cut, glue, blah blah blah. I would rather have a bulletproof installation with an absolutely parallel installation of these control surfaces. I may try and get this out, but I've been wiggling it a little bit. It is in there, and this is probably all like solid glue all the way back here. We'll see. Let me see what I can do. If I can't get that out, we're gonna go on to plan B and just measure the snot out of it. Okay, ladies and gents, this is why you do this. Let me show you what I did. So this is the stern section. What I actually did is I just drilled right through that tube on the inside. It's completely hollow inside and basically sits about, at least a 1/16 inch away from the drive shaft when it spins in there. So I've retained the bushing on both ends and we've run this through. Now, you're like, hey, it looks cool. Yeah, I understand what you're doing here. When I installed this, I did it on the center line, and then I sighted down the boat to make sure that it was parallel, perpendicular, I don't know, straight up and down. Now, what I did, I used the existing holes that were in the boat already to create my mark points. You'd think that would be logical, but now look. It's crooked. It's like this. So what that tells me is the holes were low on this side, high on this side. Not a big deal. All I'm going to do is cheat this hole up, cheat that hole down, and we'll get that proper alignment. But like I said, if you would just kind of blindly make assumptions about, for example, even if you have a brand new hull, if you just blindly drill into the dimples where they have those holes, it is not guaranteed they knew what they were doing. So double check it before you start gluing. It's really important. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up, push it down, wiggle woggle, do Merhickey, tack, and here's the other thing too. Notice how the leading edge is touching and the back is about 1/4 of an inch. So if I would have just glued these in flush, the dive planes would be sitting this way to each other. And even if I could get them in the yoke, as I move that yoke, there would be binding in those linkages. So this is really, really important. Maintain perfect parallel alignment and you'll have fewer problems in the future. So what I need to do, I'm going to open, move, grind, test, fit, and get this looking good. All right, that's how you do it. Let's take a look. Come on, let's look down here. So we've got tacked in place gently the port and starboard horizontal stabilizers. They have been measured, and then measured. A lot of this is eyeballing. This hull is a little weird. The split is not perpendicular to the vertical axis of the sail. I'm going off the sail because that's what I want to level it off of, and that's what people are going to see. So I've got my vertical stabilizer, vertical now, and now I've got my horizontal stabilizers, good, and I'm measuring off a flat piece of wood, 138 mils, center to center, both sides. They're all lined up. The big thing is the eyeball test too. You may measure and measure, but depending on the positioning of the hole to the tip, that could cant the stabilizer. So just take a step back, look at it. Does it look right? And if the answer is yes, you can feel a little bit more confident to tack it a little more solidly in place. Again, I'm using rubber reinforced cyanoacrylate because these are gonna get bonked and bounced and bashed. We want a little bit of shock absorbency in the adhesive that we're gonna be using here. Now that I've got the sides done, I think what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna clip this for now. because that'll provide some stability in case I knock this thing as we go. Flip it over, and we're going to start working on this lower one, which is pretty vital. This is going to be where 90% of our steering comes from. All right, I want to show you guys something just as an aside. If you're working on your already built boat or somebody else's already built boat, and you're cutting through appendages or joints, you've got to be mindful of what sort of adhesive is used, and I'm going to show you why right now. That, my friends, is burning cyanoacrylate. If you've not had the pleasure of inhaling it or having it get into your eyes, you will soon learn an aversion to cutting through it with any sort of fast-moving cutting apparatuses. Just be careful. Burning cyanoacrylate is not a good thing. Ventilation, eye protection, vitally important. All right, another consideration. This is the lower rudder. You know, when Dwayne originally built his version, because this horizontal intersection line actually goes past the front, he elected to drop it a little bit and then extend it in the back. That reduced the surface area of the rudder a little bit, but it made it a little bit easier from an installation perspective. I think what I'm going to do in the efforts of maximizing the size of the rudder, I'm just going to follow that line that I drew on there, and we'll sand this down so that it hovers just a 1/16 of an inch below the lower hull, and then that way the entire lower rudder assembly will become the lower rudder as opposed to just the stabilizer, as Dwayne built it earlier and as we know works exceptionally well at the lake. So I'm going to buzz this off on the old bandsaw, and we'll get to installing the base on the boat. And here's our lower rudder. Stainless shaft. So this is going to be much less prone to bending, which was the problem in the previous iteration. It had a brass shaft, which, as you know, brass is very soft metal. So if you bottomed the boat out and knocked the rudder, it would bend the shaft and then bind on the boat, which is not cool. So this is what we've got going on now. This whole thing is going to float, steer, should be just perfect. So I think now I'm just going to pull that off, and I'm going to start busting out the filler. I'm going to start filleting in all of these stabilizers into the boat to make it look pretty. Weapon of choice for this, you guys have seen it before, Evercoat Rage. Mixes up really nice and fine, very easy to sand, and kicks off real nice. Makes for a nice finish. I want you to notice that this top stabilizer is much different than the side ones. The side and actually the bottom fit perfectly. The sides, as you know, I had to grind and help conform to the hull. The top is a bit of a different story. So if you take a look from the side here, you can see we got these like pretty tremendous lips going on. Now, if I were to just fill that, what would end up happening is you'd have this curve and then a drop and then the hull. So there would actually be a pretty marked demarcation line in here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get medieval on this thing. I am just going to grind this down a lot and then sand the boogers out of it with some coarse sandpaper to get it to fit a little more flush. And then once we get that point, then we're going to hit it with the filler. Got a visitor!
Hello!
Thankfully, Jason has a little bit of experience, not only with RC submarines, but actually with that specific boat.
Unfortunately.
So, this is Howard's 212, the one that we fixed the bayonet on. The issue that Jason just found, there was a dry solder in the power connection. So
yeah. Fix that.
it was not powering up. So
yeah. Had a couple other little pluggies that weren't fully seated, and so I'm just going over it and making sure everything's hunky-dory. And
imagine that, shipping it from like California to Texas and some crap shook loose. What are the odds? So he's going to be working on that. I'm going to show you where I'm at with Alfa. So this has all been filled and sanded. The challenge with this front part here, we had this separate piece, so I've filled that. This whole side section sat about a 1/16 of an inch lower than this part. So what I've gone ahead and done, I filled that. I'm going to let it kick, but before it fully kicks, I'm going to slice open the seam there so that it doesn't permanently fuse itself to the body. But we're real close. This is all rough sanded and then fine sanded. I'm going to let this kick off, sand that down, and then we're going to get some primer on the back there. I'm anxious to see what that looks like. These new control surfaces look pretty badass on this boat. So yeah, a little development here. We went to go turn the boat on, and not only was that connection broken, but it appears
batteries are toast.
We're gonna check. They should be wired in.
They're not puffy.
No, these are NiCads. They're not gonna. Or sorry, yeah, nickel metal hydride.
Oh, these don't puff.
No, just lipos do that fun stuff. So I think, I'm trying to remember, I think those were just wired in parallel, so they should be connected together somehow. Yeah.
They are.
And then that is the plug, right?
Yep, this would be the plug for power.
Yeah. So there is like 0, 0, 0 voltage, like negative 0 voltage. Nothing. Doesn't even.
Not even a flicker.
Gonna hazard a guess that at some point in the storage life of this submarine, the batteries were left plugged into the remote switch. And I've told you guys this before, those little switches draw like 30 milliamps or 40 milliamps of current when they're quiescent. But if you leave a battery plugged into them for days and days and weeks, it'll just happily suck at the teat of the batteries until they're dry.
It's searching for a signal.
Yeah.
Looking. Pulling that power out.
So that's not good. Now we can do one of two things: try and massage those batteries back into shape again,
which hardly ever works.
Or get new batteries. So I guess we'll let Howard know. In the meantime, we can just run power directly to the boat and then check the diplanes for it. All right, sit rep. 2 dead batteries. Switch is fully functional, though. We got her bypassed with that. Okay. The rudder and diplanes are working perfectly, so that's all good. Well, we got ballast now.
Yep, we got ballast. Still no.
Oh.
Oh.
Sometimes the ESC won't initialize unless it sits in neutral for a couple of seconds.
Oh, okay.
All right, so everything works. Yay! All right, so we are back in the position where before we can test this, we need to have batteries. So we need to replace these. And in theory, I can't remember where I got those from. I'll have to go back in my sales history and take a look. But all right, well,
crisis averted.
Yeah.
For now,
until it like leaks or sinks or whatever it's going to do to us. Okay. Order some batteries. So this is that package. This was a super deal. Man, I don't know why you guys didn't jump all over this. Came with the Kilo, Small World Kilo, and Small World Blueback. And look at the paint job on these things. It's really, really good. and the cylinder and the radio as a package. So that one's all set up, with saddles and everything all ready to go. And this one just needs the saddles and linkages run. But yeah, hell of a deal. So we're checking this out for the new owner, just making sure that it works. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Dive planes, rudders, throttle.
Nope, I missed.
And I guess it's just the ballast system, hey? Which would probably be on... Oh. Oh, wait, I didn't see the linkage moving. The ballast linkage. I can hear the servo moving, but I can't see the ballast linkage moving.
No.
All right.
I'll have to adjust that. And the top one's not working either. I don't know what channel that's on.
Move the right stick forward and back. Oh, so he's just got... I wonder if he disconnected it? I don't know.
No, it's hooked up to...
Anyhow, we'll tear into it. It's still super cool. We'll get her working.
Everything else seems to work, so...
Yeah.
You got to adjust the turbo now.
This is kicked off to the point where I think I can sand this, so I'm going to sand this. I want to get some paint on this today. Dang it all. All right, ballast system update. So if you can see the ballast servo there. It's got a micro switch that activates the pump, and then that little linkage is supposed to be hooked up in there. This was an early version of these watertight cylinders, and the way that that's set up, it was actually really prone to popping off. So we got to figure out how to get that hooked back on, ideally without having to remove that whole servo, but I think we're going to have to remove the whole servo. But well, let's play with it a little bit, and we'll see if we can figure it out. All right, so we finally got the ballast servo figured out. We got rid of the micro switch that was in there. This is like an early generation subdriver. It used like a little micro switch on the ballast servo to control the air pump. Replaced that with a 2IS, so it's a more modern version now. We still need to set up the linkage for the ballast vent too. But when we were testing there, that M-Tronics speed controller, where to go right there, was getting awfully hot. So as some of you will know from following our various projects here, the M-Tronics ESCs of a certain age were wanting to explode spontaneously when you gave them power. Molten resin erupting all over your watertight cylinder, burning stuff up. So we're just going to be smart. We're going to pull this out, and we're replacing it with a different electronic speed controller that should prove to be slightly more reliable. All right, lots more stuff going on. We got this is gosh, is this the fourth? How many sharks has it been now?
4.
Yeah. Sharky number 4. We'll have to call him Sharky the Fourth or something. I don't know. He's a 4-footer. Coming along good. Got the hull assembled. We've got the gills done. This was all Saturday stuff. You guys have seen this. I just finished epoxying the seams inside, so those are going to kick off tonight for 24 hours, and he's going to be bulletproof. I got his thrusters painted up so they don't have bright green thrusters sticking out of his gills. Once that is done, I can start working on installation of the foam, the watertight box, the speed controllers, thrusters, all of that stuff. It'll go together quick, super quick. Hopefully, man. He's not going to be done before I go because I leave tomorrow, but he'll be close. Maybe just paint left. It depends how much I get done tomorrow. We're having issues with the speed controller that we put in here. It tested out fine. We installed it. Now it's not working. We're taking a little break from it, and we're working on a different cylinder that was sent back to me here. It looks like what ended up happening. Can you see the side of that thing? The right there. It looks like maybe the ESC shorted on the aluminum and exploded. So we're replacing those for the customer with same size units. And last but not least, look at the Alfa. Oh, That is sweet. Looks so good. Got the die planes over here. Drying up. We'll play with that more tomorrow. Everything's going to happen tomorrow. This is the seam. Actually, when we open this up, it's just going to be like a razor blade. I did scrape that through. It got filled with paint, but when I open it up, it'll go back. So that's going to be invisible. Super cool. So got lots done today. All thanks to Jason coming in, because he managed to like pick up the slack on projects. How does it feel to get back working on subs and not just cylinders?
Yeah, it's fun taking a cylinder apart 300 times, putting it back together, and it's still not working. But
sarcasm alert.
Yeah, I enjoy working on boats, giving me a break from the cylinders.
So now I probably need to do some office stuff. I got 4 waybills to make. Got to swap a print over on the resin printer. So yeah, I think we're probably getting pretty close. Maybe once you get those swapped over, if you want to take off for the day. Sounds good. Yeah, we'll be good. I got lots to keep me busy here. Started work at 3:30 this morning because I couldn't sleep. So I'm already, what is that? I don't even know how many hours that is. 9, 10 hours in the day already. It's all good. Lots done. Excited about the Alfa. Really excited about the Alfa. So let's see what else get done today. All right, ladies and germs, it's a new day. Got to get stuff done. Last day before my trip, and last chance to get the last minute done. So I have to get that cylinder working. Don't know what's wrong with it. Gotta try. Gotta get the thrusters mounted in this thing, some foam in there, the watertight box done, maybe get a coat of primer. That sounds awfully optimistic to me. I don't know. Gotta button up my Alfa, get it all loaded back up and get it out of my shop. I'll have to come back to it and work on it, but man, I'm super happy with how that stern turned out. Much, much better than what it was before. And if you guys are familiar with the Alfa, it's got a emergency hatch right here, that little bullseye thing, red and white, that goes right there. I 3D printed this, and the reason I did in 6 sections is because it alternates red and white. So now I can simply break this apart, paint 3 red, 3 white, glue it together, and I don't need to do any masking. I can just use some rattle cans. So I think that's going to work really good. Maybe I'll try that today. It'll just take a couple of minutes. And I need to test the 212, and I can because I think I managed to massage and love and coax these batteries back to life last night. Do you guys remember they were at 0.00 volts? What I did is I used a low voltage, like an 8 volt low amp trickle charger, and just threw voltage at it for a couple of hours in an attempt to get some charge on it so that the computerized battery charger that I have could latch onto it and massage them back to life. I've not actually checked these. This might be awfully optimistic of me to try and measure this with one hand. I can't do it. Hold on. Some things you need 2 hands for. Positive. Negative. Fully charged, 13.9 volts. That's right. We're back in business. And one last thing before I get deep into the work today, I am getting a new 3D printer. Ed Tortle put me onto it. Steve O'Connell grabbed one. It's the Bamboo Labs Carbon. I'm really excited about it, mostly because it prints almost anything effortlessly. But the product that they offer with it is a glass reinforced ABS. And this gets me really, really excited about the possibility of printing, 3D printing ABS hulls. There's no striations in the prints, just kind of a slightly pebbled texture to it. you'll have seen it in my last video there where Ed showed the result of some of those parts. As a result, I'm going to sell one of my 2 Dremel 3D45s. These are absolute workhorses. I have owned them for years and years and years, and they have performed absolutely flawlessly. They're basically commercial grade printers. They're for people with like printer farms and small businesses and that kind of thing. They're not hobby grade. They are top of the line. They retail for $2,000 right now. I'm going to let mine go for 500 bucks. So if anybody is interested in getting into 3D printing with a commercial grade 3D printer that I have had absolutely amazing success with, hit me up. I don't know if I'll have a chance to get it listed on my website, but I can certainly shoot you an invoice if that's something you're interested in. Should be pretty reasonable to ship. Got a really big print volume, 10 by 6 by 7 inches. You can print almost anything that you need on that. So give me a shout. Let me know. I'll hook you up with a Dremel. All right, I'm jumping on this cool Blueback Kilo combo thing, trying to figure out why the speed controller wasn't working. Mystery solved. So when I checked things, Jason had inadvertently cross-connected it. He had power going to the motor outputs and the motor outputs going to power, which exploded the unit. You can see some cool little burn marks in there. That's not cool. I'm going to give this little ESC a shot. Hopefully it works. If not, I got to order another one, which is time and expense. I'm going to swap this out, see if we can get her fired up. All right, we got this sucker back together again. Let's take a look at all the functions here. We got our rudder, our stern planes right there. We've got our forward planes. We've got our throttle, forward and back. And we've got ballast, which is over here. Here, the air pump. And there's the vent. Done. 212 back together again, tested and fully functional. So, all I'm going to do is throw this thing in the pool real quick. And it needs to be quick because the radio is about to die. And I don't feel like charging it. And I don't think I have the charger. So, off to the top secret test facility to throw it in the water. Well, she floats. That's always a good thing. Let's see if it'll dive, and if it does it leak? Aha, zero leakage. It's trimmed kind of weird. I don't remember it being like that before. All right. Up she comes. Doop. Nice. I like. Well, boys and girls, it's about that time to wrap up this week's short work week video. Thanks for joining me. But before I go, I got some news to pass along, and this is in regards to vendor partnership that we had here at the dry docks. I am unfortunately going to need to let you know that the Nautilus Dry Docks is no longer working in partnership with OTW out of the UK. Bob Dimmick and I have parted ways after more than a decade. It's with heavy heart that I announce that. If you need any OTW parts or OTW support, unfortunately, you're going to need to deal with Bob directly. Not going to go into why we decided to part ways, but just wanted to let you know those products are no longer on the website and I'm no longer supporting them. So that is the way the sub thinks. And with that, we do find ourselves at the end of this update video. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. It helps us out here at the Dry Docks a lot. If you have questions or comments, hit me up anytime. Drop a comment below, or better yet, for faster response, hit me by email, bob@nautilusdrydocks.com. Leave you with a couple of videos, one over here, one over here. Strongly consider you take the time to watch them. They're pretty cool. With that, my name is Bob Martin, the RC Sub Guy. We're going to leave you with that. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.